Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. So today I'm going to be telling you about all the books I read in July. I actually read more than I thought. In fact, I finished all the books that I really wanted to read except for one which I did not finish, but I substituted it for a different book instead. So I will show you the book that I read or am reading instead of that one. So the first two books I want to talk about today, I'm just going to briefly mention. I'm not going to go through and do my usual where I tell you the summary and then I tell you what I thought about it and all that, because I talk about the Dresden Files a lot on these videos so far, and I feel like people, if you don't like the Dresden Files or you've never heard of it, you're probably tired of hearing about it at this point. I've beat you over the head with it. So this is book 15 of the Dresden Files, Skin Game by Jim Butcher, and this is book 16 that just came out a couple weeks ago, Peace Talks, also by Jim Butcher. It's very short because really it's only about half of a book, and the second half is coming out in September called Battleground, so I'm super excited for that. I gave both of them 5 stars. This was a reread for me. I've read this one like 2 or 3 times before. It was still amazing as always. It's kind of about a heist and they have to steal from a Greek god, and it's really super cool. And I just can't tell you anything about these books because they're so far into the series now that it would spoil everything. So go check out the Dresden Files though. These are awesome. Okay, so the next book that I read, I will tell you my general format, which is I will tell you the summary, the pros, the cons, and my overall rating. So the book is The Mysterious Benedict Society by Trenton Lee Stewart. It looks like an older book, but I found out it was actually published like in the 2000s, I believe. It's very similar to like the Lemony Snicket series of unfortunate events. It's definitely for middle school or even upper elementary possibly. I think my previous library had it in the 5th grade section. Yeah, 2007 is when this came out. The summary basically, I would say, so that it wouldn't spoil anything, it's about 4 kids who have kind of interesting abilities. They're not like superpowers or anything, but they're all just sort of like gifted in different ways. And at the beginning, they take a test, and the whole first part of the book is them kind of doing this test and getting past it. And this man named Mr. Benedict wants to find kids that can actually pass the test. And this is the first time that 4 students at the same time have passed the test. So he recruits them, and they call themselves the Mysterious Benedict Society. He gives them a mission that involves going to a weird boarding school where they get into some shenanigans and have to try to figure out what the bad sort of headmaster of this boarding school is up to, and there is mystery and intrigue and things like that. So as far as the pros go, I would say that it's fun. It's a fun book. It was fun. It's lighthearted. Even though it's for middle schoolers, like it's still just really fun. I actually listened to it as an audiobook, so that made it more fun, I guess, too, because, sitting down and reading this gigantic book, especially if you're a middle schooler, like it's almost 500 pages, that would be pretty daunting. But the audiobook made it go by pretty fast. So I would say the characters are fun. The writing style is fun. Somebody compared it to kind of like Charles Dickens' writing style. I mean, I guess it's sort of supposed to mimic that, but like for middle school, which is interesting. And as far as the cons go, I would say that it is a little too long. And not just the length of the book, but the plot itself. The first part where they're having the test and getting recruited by Mr. Benedict is really exciting. But then once they get to this boarding school for their actual mission, there are some things that just don't need to happen. It's just kind of the plot just really slows down. And honestly, there were sections I really tuned out when I was listening to the audiobook. So I'm still going to give it a rating, obviously, but there were some parts I think I kind of skimmed over a little bit listening to it. But then the ending was really good too. And I know there are sequels to this book, or at least one sequel, but I think there might be more. But I just don't feel like there's any need for a sequel. I feel like the story's been wrapped up and like I'm done with it. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the cons. As far as the overall rating goes, I had predicted that I would give this book 4 stars, and I would say it would be really close to that. I think maybe like 3.5, just because the whole middle section does just slow down so much and it's just a little bit too long with too many side things that you just don't even need. But the characters are fun and the story was fun and the mystery was great, and I loved the beginning and the end. So I would say I would give this 3.5 stars. Okay, the next book I read is something that I would normally never pick out, and it is a romance novel. Ow, I just hit myself in the face. Oh gosh. It's called Field Notes on Love by Jennifer E. Smith, and this book is a KBA, Kentucky Bluegrass Award-winning book, and that's a reason why I thought I would read it, because I'm trying to read all the 10 KBA award winners. It is really short, and it is also very, very fast to read. So, as far as the summary goes, this book is listed as a romance, first of all, but it's not. not really. Like, yeah, there's romance, but I would not say that that's the main genre of this book. This is a realistic fiction coming of age story with just some romance sprinkled in. So, but it's advertised as romance, and we even have it classified as romance. So in this book, the plot is basically centered around a boy and a girl who have never met each other before. And the boy lives in England, and he is a sextuplet, like one of 6 like identical siblings, basically. And so he's always been associated with them his whole life with no identity of his own. They even all have to go to college together as part of an agreement with their local university that they will all get free tuition if they all attend, because it would be good press for the university to advertise these like sextuplets are attending their college together. So he's in England doing his thing. And then in America, we've got this girl named Margaret Campbell who goes by the nickname May. And she is wanting to get into, I think it's some college in California. I can't remember. Anyway, she wants to go into their film school. So she has to make a film, and it gets rejected at the beginning. So now she's like, well, what did I do wrong? Why can't I get into the school? What is wrong? I'm so good, like, technically at filmmaking, but it's because there's no, like, heart or personality or soul to her films. So she's trying to kind of find some inspiration and, like, find herself and figure out how to put herself into her films and things like that. And so they both need to learn some lessons and do some coming of age. And what happens, the premise is, as you can see, there's a train on the front. So it's all about this train ride. So the boy, Hugo, he in England breaks up with his girlfriend at the beginning of the book. Well, she breaks up with him. And they have planned a train trip together across, all across America from like New York to California before they go off to college. Well, now they've broken up. Well, the problem is, they still have the tickets, and the ticket that she booked like all the hotels and everything like that, and it's all in her name with his name just kind of attached on the side. So he could get a refund, but he still really wants to go, but he can't like check into any of these places because he's not Margaret Campbell, and he doesn't have a Margaret Campbell with him since she's no longer going. So the solution to the problem his brothers and sisters come up with is, why not just find someone else named Margaret Campbell to take her ticket so that he can still go on the trip, and he'll just go with some random girl across the country. And he's like, no girl's going to agree to this. Like, what if I'm a serial killer? What if she's a serial killer? But he decides to do it anyway. So he makes a post online and finds May, whose real name is Margaret Campbell, and she agrees to go with him because she thinks that this will be, and her grandmother convinces her too, that this will be a good opportunity for her to get out and experience the world so that she can make better films. Of course, they kind of fall in love on the train, but the romance isn't even the important part. It's about them growing sort of as people and learning how to, I don't know, survive in the real world, kind of. Anyway, there's a lot more to it than the romance aspect. It was actually pretty good. As far as the prose go, it's really short and fast to read. It was fun. It was lighthearted. There's some serious stuff in it, but not too much. And yeah, I mean, it's just enjoyable. The cons, I mean, it's not really a romance. Like, if you are looking for a romance, this is not really it, because it's honestly like middle schoolers could read this. Like, there's not really big time romance at all. I mean, it's just they meet on a train and they're like, oh, we kind of like each other. Okay, I guess we love each other. I don't know. And I'm like, what? This happened. The romance happens awfully fast. I mean, and you don't really get to see it. And you just like, oh, this just happened. You don't really see very many other conversations because it is so short. And of course, it is pretty unrealistic, I guess, for this kind of thing to happen. But it's a cool premise. So as far as the overall rating goes, I had predicted that I would give this book 3 out of 5 stars, or 3.5 out of 5. And that's exactly what I would give it. So I think this might be one of my first books that I'm spot on, 3.5 stars, because it was fun, and it was also very well written. So I'll give it that too. But I do recommend it. I think it's pretty good. So the last book I was supposed to read this month, according to my TBR list, is the one that I did not finish, and it is Slay by Brittany Morris. So I started this book because I knew it was about video games. I still don't know much about the summary because I didn't get very far, but basically this girl, she is a black gamer, and she creates a game for only black gamers. And the problem is something happens in real life. I honestly already forgot what it was. No one knows that she's the video game developer, by the way, not even her boyfriend. But something happens like in real life, and then there's like this troll who infiltrates the game, and all of a sudden she's potentially being sued for anti-white discrimination, and she's trying to like preserve her secret identity about founding this game. And it says, and harness what it means to be unapologetically Black in a world intimidated by Blackness. But can she protect her game without losing herself in the process? And so while this book definitely tries to tackle big issues, I read like the first 50 pages and I just hated the characters. Like, oh my gosh, they have no personality. It's all about the issues, but there was just no like plot, or I don't know. It just didn't seem very real to me. I mean, the Field Notes on Love was way better than this one. So I gave up and substituted it for a different book. So I can't rate this book just because I didn't finish it. So I did substitute the book for another one, which was called Action Park, Fast Times, Wild Rides, and the Untold Story of America's Most Dangerous Amusement Park by Andy Mulvihill and Jake Rawson. And this book is one that I didn't even realize was coming out, but I've always been fascinated by the story of Action Park. So this is nonfiction. And if you've never heard of Action Park, it's basically it was a park in New Jersey, opened in like the 1970s, I want to say, 80s, 1980s, yeah. And it actually lasted longer than you'd think, but it was super dangerous. It basically had accidents like multiple times a day. Hospital, ambulances were standing by at the park at all times. Many people died there, and it just has some crazy legacies. So they had this water slide that you would go down like just with your body, like you're not in anything, and you would go through like this loop, and basically people would lose their teeth and like hit their heads, and I mean it was terrible. People would swing into this like freezing cold river, like a Tarzan style swing, and just swing into the river, which sounded really fun, but the water was so cold that it caused somebody to have like a heart attack because they went into shock. So people got electrocuted like in the wave pool or something. So it was just crazy. The safety standards were just really bad. It was run by a lot of teenagers who worked there who were not very well trained, and they were underage, and they were supposed to be telling adults what to do, but the adults wouldn't listen to them. And also like everyone was drunk most of the time, including these underage workers. So it just, I mean, if you go look it up on YouTube, there are some really good like short videos about it. But the reason why I wanted to read this book is because it's written by the son of the owner of the park. So he says his dad was sort of like a deranged Willy Wonka who had all these ideas to build this park. And he said his dad's main goal was that he wanted the people to feel like they were in control. That was the key in like the 1980s and during that time period, that people felt like they just didn't have much control in their lives apparently. And that's the one thing they wanted. So when you went to Six Flags or Disney, you knew exactly what to expect, and the park basically was in control. But at this place, you could make your own experience, like literally, because you didn't know if you were going to walk out with an injury that day or if you were even going to walk out alive. And at the end of the day, people would compare their injuries and say, oh yeah, I got this scrape here, or this happened to me here. And then they would look forward to coming back the next time. So this is kind of like the untold story of it, because it's the son telling all the behind the scenes, and it's not written just like pure facts. Like if you watch one of the videos about this park, it's really just the facts about what happened. But and the types of rides they had. This is really written more like a story, but it's really good. And I'm only on page 108 so far, but I do plan on finishing it next month. So I'm still predicting that I'm going to give, I didn't predict last time, but just when I bought this book, I kind of predicted that I would really like it, and I do. So I think I will probably wind up giving this probably like 4 out of 5. So those are all the books that I read in July. It was a pretty good month for me, but next month I'll be going back to school. So whether that's in person or virtual or who knows what, or some weird combination of both. So I'll definitely be a lot busier in August. I don't think I'm going to get around into as many books, but we'll find out. So thank you guys for watching. And if you don't care, if you could leave a comment down below and let me know what books that you read in July, if you read any, then that would be awesome. So anyway, thanks guys. See you later. Bye.